Yeah. Boom to the hay, all you sports fans out there in the two-ball sphere, or to you, the individual, as part of the collective. Welcome to the OMSR. I am your brief but very concise host, Will, the alternative ESPN Sports Thrill. Do a little intro show thing-a-ling-a-majing, along with Dwayne Darnett, ultimate sports fan, OMSR mascot, a few of the OMSR Pi Kappa Alpha House sweethearts, review chapter Alpha Tau, giving you props. Since this is a college sports mainly oriented show, but today, in this episode, talk about the AF and NFC Championships, the way it went down. I would just say in Bostic's defense, he saw the ball coming down perfect trajectory, that split-second decision, he just mistimed it. Good hands over here on Seattle's side. A little demonstration of Baltimore's kind of porous defense there in the secondary, and yeah, feel good Tom Brady. Nobody was talking about how Andrew Luck was so unlucky in that game, so the highlights are taken from The Herd along with Colin. Great analysis from Tim Hasselbeck, great NFL analysis of the games. And BC football just really hasn't been the same. I will just say for my part on the Quickie Sport rant, and we're going to get to the highlights, I'll use the basketball analogy because, you know, I got thousands of more man hours of that sport under my belt. If you're bouncing the ball out on a wet court, it starts to do funny things physics-wise. I think there might have just been some elementary physics going on there in terms of the low pressure, air temperature, and all that. To go and sit there and sneak, you know, needle pressure to reduce the air pressure on the footballs with all them people looking at you, I'd be paranoid as hell to do that. You're talking about ball boys and their teams. Well, maybe they'd have the gusto to do that. By the same token, if you know you're going to have to put up some more zip on all them balls as opposed to the opposing quarterback, I'm just saying. Alright, thanks for watching. No silly DUIs while you're out there. Especially celebrating the Super Bowl, sports and alcohol, they are joined at the hip. Roll clip.
It's The Herd on ESPN Radio. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, thanks for making us part of your day. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests via the Subway Fresh Take Hotline and simulcast on ESPNU. Trent Dilfer in 15 minutes. Seattle and New England should be here. Regardless of what happened, New England struggled with Baltimore, Seattle struggled with Green Bay. If you really break down what these two teams have been doing since early October, they've been the best two teams in football. Take New England. Counting the playoffs, they've won 12 of 13, almost all of them by blowout. Their only loss was at Lambeau on a play Gronk had the ball, then lost it in the end zone, or they could have won. So they've won 12 of 13. Seattle's won 11 of 12 going back to early October. They've been in a couple of close games, one with the Raiders, one with the Panthers, but they've mostly blown everybody out, and their only loss, similar to New England, was 24-20 at Kansas City, fourth down, 2-yard line, at the goal, and they didn't score. Could have taken the lead and won the game. So these two teams are 2 plays away from combined winning 26 straight games, mostly by blowout. These are really the 2 best rosters, complete rosters in the NFL. They have excellent, aggressive head coaches. They've got playmaking quarterbacks. They both have tremendous corners, excellent secondaries. 2 best secondaries, in my opinion, right now in the NFL are Seattle 1 and New England's 2 or 3. I like McCourty on the back end. Browner and Jarrell Revis, I think, are exceptional. I thought Green Bay should be very proud of mostly the way they played. I thought Green Bay was the more physical team. I thought they controlled 75-80% of the game. They just didn't make a couple of plays late. They have nothing to be ashamed of. It's just one of those crazy games where every stinking break went Seattle's way late and every break went against the Packers. But when I look at the NFL right now today, I think, in my opinion, New England's better than Seattle and will win the game very close. That's my takeaway. Seattle opened as a 2.5-point favorite, and if I was a gambler, I would have jumped all over that. Wise guys did. It's now a pick'em. So the guys who bet for a living were all over New England. I think New England's the better team. I think they have an edge at coaching, edge at quarterback, edge on offense. They have the toughest guy to defend, Gronk, in the game. And frankly, I think they're healthier right now. Richard Sherman's not going to be at 100%. Some of those offensive linemen for Seattle hobbled, limped off the field. And defensively, I think Seattle's better, but I think New England's really good. I'll tell you, I don't think Seattle's as good as last year. Their pass rush, I mean, Aaron Rodgers had all day to throw, and Green Bay ran the football. I don't care what the stats say. Some of Seattle's stats this year are elevated. Carolina ran the football on them. Green Bay ran the football on them. If New England can run the football in Seattle, that is a huge, huge. The other game was a blowout, and I got to tell you how I felt watching the Patriots and Colts. I wasn't into the game as much. About 10 minutes into that game, I'm like, New England's got better players. This is not going to be close. And it just, like when I watch Green Bay Seattle, I'm like, I think Seattle's better, but Green Bay's knocking some Seattle guys out of the game. Forget the deflated ball. I kind of feel deflated ratings. I'm going to go 23.6. 25.6. So I'm in the middle on that? Yeah. Green Bay, Seattle. You know, this morning we were talking about greatest games we've ever seen. And I just hate calling professional athletes chokers. The only time I've really seen choking, Greg Norman at the Masters, he acknowledged it. It got into his head. And golf is very much a mental game. That was choking. Even Chris Webber. Timeout, you don't know, you're a 19-year-old kid. I don't like to say Green Bay choked. I've never been into that. I think what happens is there's momentum. And I think in Seattle and Green Bay, Seattle's obviously trying to catch up. So they're behind in the marathon with a mile to go. They're running as hard as they can. And Green Bay's like, eat the clock, eat the clock. This is what happens when you lead by 10, 12 points. Green Bay gets into the clock watching. I'm watching the clock. Let's eat the clock. And can that neurologically, physiologically kind of change the way you play? Yes. But I tend to believe that teams that trail late just are naturally more aggressive. So I don't want to blame Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. When you trail, I watched a lot of college football this year, and I watched a lot of teams get beat for 3.5 quarters, and then with no huddle come forward. What has happened in football is very strange. Coaches really struggle with this. It used to be if you led 19-7, 6 to go, dude, game over. The game was over. Game was over. It doesn't work that way, and coaches are struggling with this. Because coaches are now going, all right, okay, game over, game's not over. No huddle, Russell Wilson, zone read, he can run out of bounds. I think coaches are really struggling with 6 minutes to go in games. And I saw it in college 20 times this year. I'm seeing it in the NFL, and I think Mike McCarthy's sitting there and he's thinking, all right, my instincts are 19-7 on the road. We've held them, run, punt it. And I think Aaron Rodgers is thinking, I'm out here. I go for it. So football has changed. We're seeing this every Saturday and Sunday. Teams like Green Bay outplay Seattle the whole game and lose. And I know we live in a blame culture and blame. And I just think it's the new football. And I think it's tough to coach, and I think it's tough to play. All right, Jim Hasselbeck is joining me, ESPN NFL analyst. All right, let's start.
With you big-timing me? Is that what we should start? Like last week when you big-timed me? And you were like, hey, Peyton Manning, even though they're going to pay him $20 million, he should just retire. 93 touchdowns and 25 picks in the last 2 years. He's gone. He stinks. He couldn't play for anybody. Okay. Are you kidding me?
You see who my new avatar is?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. You big-time me. Next thing you know, I mean, I'm on the show with you weekly. Never once been on. I didn't even think a twit pic has been posted by you. Nothing. Instead, you and Tebow is your Twitter avatar for the show.
You see that?
Awesome, dude. It's great.
So amped up, dude.
Yeah, I was pretty amped to see that. That was fantastic.
Let's start with the onside kick. Everybody, listen, I've defended Mike McCarthy today. The field goal's early. It's points. You're on the road. I don't have a problem with that. Let's start with the onside kick, though. I was watching you on SportsCenter. What happened?
Well, I agree with you on McCarthy. Take the points early. You're on the road, and there's so much football left at that point. When you get to the onside kick, people have to realize that just because you're on the hands team, it doesn't mean they want you to handle the football.
That's right.
Okay? So now if you look at the way that they were lined up, you have John Kuhn, you have Richard Rodgers, Brandon Bostic, and Andrew Corliss. You have a fullback and 3 tight ends.
Big dude, big tough dude.
They're the front line. Now they handle the football on offense, but they're not the guys that you necessarily want fielding the football. Now Dallas uses Jason Witten in that Jordy Nelson spot. So Jordy Nelson is behind those 4 guys. They're the wall. So their job when that ball's kicked, if it's bounced on the ground and propelled into the air, which that kick was, their job is to go attack and block the guys that are covering the onside kick.
Even if it looks like you've got a shot to catch it,
they don't want you touching it. They do not want you touching the football. It's like having two returners back on a deep kick. Guess what? They want Devin Hester catching it. They don't want the other up guy to catch it. That is designed to have Jordy Nelson catch the football. It actually was set up perfectly to have Jordy Nelson catch the football.
But the up guy...
Bostic, for whatever reason, it's not just about him not fielding the football. He never should have put himself in the position to be fielding it. He should have gone forward to block Chris Matthews, the guy who ends up recovering the football. He should have gone and blocked him, which would have created more room for Jordy to catch it. And the special teams coach on the sideline is basically looking at him saying, what are you doing? Like, this is such a... He went so far off the reservation in terms of what the decision was before he even had his hands on the football.
And you know he's been coached to do the right thing.
Yes, it's so frustrating. Morgan Burnett picks that football off.
Oh, good Lord.
And he goes down. Julius Peppers is telling him to go down. Colin, I mean, they're acting like they were protecting a four-score game or there was 30 seconds left or something.
He had a gateway of about 30 yards.
He potentially scores. And if he doesn't score, you're probably at least in field goal range. Then you're kicking a field goal there
to go up 22-7,
which changes the game. So that to me, that was a fails all around by Green Bay. I think choking in the moment.
Okay, now we've mostly agreed. We'll get to Peyton Manning in a second. They're claiming this morning, Tom Brady laughed about it on EEI, deflated footballs for New England. This just feels like bitterness that they continue to dominate the AFC. Do you buy into it?
Well, I don't know that. It's going to definitely play as a bitterness thing, like a sour grapes, hey, we lost.
But does it happen?
I think you have to look at probably the timeline of how these things happen. They didn't get their doors blown off and say, hey, their footballs were flat. I think what happened was there was obviously an issue or perceived to be an issue with the balls during the game. And so, and generally speaking, if you think about, well, when could there be an issue with the ball? When would the opposing team have, the New England Patriots ball in their possession? After a turnover. So D'Qwell Jackson intercepts the football. I guess that would have been the second quarter or late first quarter.
Down by the goal line.
And so now, look, you intercept Tom Brady in an AFC playoff game, AFC Championship game. You want to keep that football. So now you have that football. Like, if it doesn't seem right, then you say, hey, listen, we want these balls to be right,
You're saying the Colts, they should have in the moment.
Well, so what I'm saying is, I'm guessing that this has happened. I'm speculating here, just to be clear. I'm speculating at that point. You say, this doesn't feel right, because that's when the equipment guys would have the football. Chuck Pagano's not handling the football. He's not saying, hey, this is what happened. It would be the equipment guys. So the equipment guys say, hey, something's not right. You say it to the official. Excuse me. And then the officials then have to look at it. Well, if you look at what happened at halftime, they clearly were looking at the footballs. I mean, I think that's the one thing here. New England was winning that game if they played with a completely flat football. Okay, I just want to be very clear about that. But to act like this, this isn't a manufactured event. The NFL is looking into the way those footballs were managed.
Have you ever played in your career and somebody monkey with the footballs?
Everyone does.